Can you feel it? That calm starting to wash over your head, as if everything inside you is slowing down. Your breath, your thoughts, the world around you is fading gently. And in this soft silence, right behind your forehead, there's something that doesn't move, doesn't make a sound, but it's awake, it's waiting. It's your brain, that incredible organ. It might look small, but it's far more complex than anything you could imagine. It doesn't need light to see. It doesn't need words to understand. It's where your oldest secrets live, where your unspoken dreams sleep, where the faces of those you loved are stored, along with the names you've forgotten and moments you don't even remember living. Yet somehow, it remembers them all. The strange thing is, you live inside it, and yet you don't really know it. And now, as you lie back in bed, closing your eyes in comfort, let me take you on a different kind of journey. A journey into a place you've never visited, though it's always been part of you. It's right there, behind your eyes, deep inside. That's where we'll go, slowly. You don't have to follow every detail. Just listen and let your imagination see. We're going to start where no one expects. Before you were born, before anyone was born, before animals walked the earth or made a sound. There, in an ancient sea, in a time, before light as we know it, there lived tiny little creatures, so small you couldn't see them even if you stared hard. But they felt. Yes, they felt the light. They didn't think, they didn't analyze, they just felt. And that small, weak, flickering feeling, that was the beginning. Isn't it strange that the journey of the human brain began with a feeling? Not a thought, not a decision, just a feeling. And that first feeling, millions of years ago, will now take us through everything you are, to this mind, right now, waiting, curious for the story to begin. Imagine now that we're diving together, deeper and deeper into the bottom of an ancient sea. Not like any sea you know. A sea untouched by sunlight as we see it today. A sea whose waters had never heard a sound, not even silence. There, in the cold depths, more than 500 million years ago, life was incredibly simple. No eyes, no ears, no thoughts, just tiny creatures, slowly swimming, moving without awareness, without even knowing they existed. All they wanted was a faint light and something to eat. But what couldn't be seen by the eye held a big secret within it, something very small. A cell starting to send a signal, just a weak pulse, alerting the creature that light was over there, in that direction, or that something hot was getting close. This wasn't a thought. It wasn't a decision. It was simply a reaction, direct, raw, requiring no thinking at all. And this was the beginning of the brain. What started as a single cell became, over time, a network, and what began as a network started to twist and cluster, like nature was slowly weaving the first threads of intelligence, threads that didn't understand, but could feel. In a simple worm, the first nerve ganglia appeared, as if the universe was experimenting with building a mini brain. Not something that solved problems, just something that could control movement. It didn't know sadness or love. It just moved when it needed to move. And centuries passed, and the threads of the nervous system grew more complex, bit by bit. Then came the first jawed fish, small creatures, but inside them, a cleverer nerve center began to form. The sense of smell emerged, and the ability to sense danger before it happened. And the eye began to see not just light, but images. Faint as they were, those early images were the first glimpse of coming awareness. But don't be fooled. Even then, there was no one who knew they knew. No one dreamed, no one thought, only well-honed reactions, as if these creatures were built to move through a world that didn't understand them, but they survived in it. And with each development, with every new fin, every new sense, something inside was forming, gathering, gaining weight without notice, the brain. A brain that didn't speak, didn't question, but evolved, silently, as if time itself was training it patiently, without rush. Then, suddenly, something unexpected happened. Creatures emerged from the sea, crawling onto land, with their wet skin and tired eyes, in search of something new, firmer ground, lighter air. But life outside the water wasn't easy. There was dryness, harsher light, endless sounds, and their brains had to keep up, to adapt. In reptiles, the brain was no longer just a knot. It split, it spread. And what we now call the reptilian brain was born, the survival center. That primitive part that doesn't feel, doesn't love, doesn't think. It just flees, attacks, survives. It's the part that still tells you today to run when you feel fear, even when you don't understand why. And in that hot world, over the dry rocks, the cells kept maturing, weaving deeper connections. There still wasn't any thinking, no complex emotions, no stories to tell, no names to speak, just fast pulses carrying you from one danger to another in silence, without you even knowing something in you was changing. But the truth is, everything was changing, as if the brain was carving its path through darkness, step by step, as if the long night those first creatures lived through was preparing for something entirely new. Then, in that silence, something different began. Hidden seeds appeared deep inside the brain, seeds not for escape, but for feeling, the first seeds of emotion. And here, the journey pauses for a moment. Can you imagine that your heartbeat right now is linked to that ancient moment? That your emotions, the ones you sometimes don't know how to control, started as a tiny spark in a crawling creature that didn't even know it was alive. But don't rush, emotion is only the beginning. And now, we'll see how the brain turned into something completely different, how the cerebral cortex was born, and how the mind began not just to react, but to understand. Imagine that the world millions of years ago wasn't anything like we know it today. Reptiles walked the land with cold confidence under a blazing sun, watching, hunting, surviving. But they didn't feel. They didn't dream. Their brains were machines built for survival, nothing more. Then, slowly, like a dream, a quiet shift began, so subtle no one even noticed. tiny creatures trembling beneath the trees, running from giant dinosaurs. But inside them, there was something different, something gentle, something that would change everything. They were mammals, creatures that began to fear, to care, to cry for their young. And that wasn't weakness, it was a new kind of strength, because they were no longer alone. They began to love, and to fear losing what they loved. And here, at the heart of those emotions, the emotional brain began to form. Deep in the brain, above the older layers, something new appeared, the limbic system. A part that doesn't think in words, but feels. It's the part that makes you tremble when you're scared, that makes you miss someone without even knowing why. Those mammals slept beside their young, licked them, sniffed them, and cried when they were gone. And that crying, it wasn't random. It was a message that something warm was taking shape, something called emotion. Over time, a new layer began forming above all that. An outer shell, simple at first, but one day it would hold every thought, the cerebral cortex. At the beginning, it only helped with vision, with hearing, with learning small things. But little by little, it grew, expanded, and became more complex, as if it were remembering something that hadn't happened yet, something from the future. Then came the great apes, creatures that could remember, plan, even deceive. They learned, they adapted, they remembered who hurt them, and felt joy for those who helped them. Isn't that what we do too? And as time passed, that cortex kept growing, especially in the front part of the brain, where now sits the frontal lobe, the center of decision-making, focus, and conscience, a place that never shuts down, even when you're asleep. But humans hadn't appeared yet. The brain was still building itself, layer by layer, as if consciousness was asleep, waiting for its moment to wake up. Then, finally, in a harsh world, under an unfamiliar sky, a new kind of creature appeared. It looked ordinary, but inside, it carried the surprise, the first human, a fragile body, but something no other creature had. A brain that could imagine the future. It didn't just live in the moment. It asked, what will happen tomorrow? It didn't just feel fear. It feared losing what it loved. It didn't just eat. It searched for meaning in hunger and for the story behind food. That shift was the birth of consciousness. For the first time in history, there was a being who knew they were thinking. And inside that brain, all the past ages came together. The reptilian brain that screams in fear, the emotional brain that makes us grieve, and the thinking brain that reflects, wonders, and hopes. Imagine all of that is happening inside you right now, as you lie there quietly, listening, breathing slowly. Your brain is working in silence, pulsing, thinking, without you even asking it to. But how did those thoughts happen? How do they travel from one cell to another? How is imagination born? How does sadness fade? How are dreams made? That is what we'll discover in the next part of our journey into this silent universe, your brain. Deep inside the human brain, beneath everything modern, beneath all emotions and all thoughts, there is something very old, something silent, dark. It doesn't think, it doesn't love, it doesn't plan, but it controls. This part is what scientists today call the reptilian brain. And the reptilian brain is not a metaphor, it's an anatomical reality. Its name comes from the fact that it resembles the brain of ancient reptiles, which lived hundreds of millions of years ago, and whose only concern was to stay alive. This part doesn't know what love is. It doesn't understand art. It doesn't need philosophy. It's just there to keep you alive, and it never stops. The reptilian brain regulates your breathing, your heartbeat, your body temperature, your balance when you stand, and your movement when you walk. It's what makes you pull your hand away from something hot without thinking, and what lets you swallow without remembering how you did it. All of this happens in silence, deep, deep silence. There's no light there, no language. In this part, you'll find structures like the brainstem, the cerebellum, and the basal ganglia. Each one works without you asking it to. The cerebellum, for example, doesn't speak, but it makes sure you don't fall over. The brainstem doesn't feel, but it keeps your heart beating evenly, even while you're asleep. Every involuntary motion starts here. Every sudden reaction begins here. And if your body jumps before you realize why, know that it was the reptilian brain that started it all. And even though it's primitive, it's precise and very, very quiet. It's as if time doesn't touch it. It doesn't change much between humans. A baby is born with it. An old person dies with it. It doesn't age the way emotions do. It doesn't fade like memories. This part of the brain doesn't trust change, which is why it's always afraid of the unknown, of the new, of strange sounds, of the dark. It's what plants caution in you, what makes you turn your head when you hear a noise behind you, even when there's nothing there. And even though the modern human has evolved so much, this part still operates the same way it did for our ancestors. Your modern brain tells you everything's fine, but your reptilian brain isn't easily convinced. It needs safety, routine, repetition. That's why it loves sleep. That's why it hates surprises. And now we understand why sleep resets things, why repetition brings comfort, and why a steady voice like this one right now calms the brain. Because this voice isn't a threat, and the reptilian brain doesn't like threats. And when you sleep, this part doesn't sleep. It stays awake. It watches your breathing. It watches your heartbeat. It makes sure everything stays in place. Like a quiet night guard, it doesn't speak and it never leaves. Without this part, we wouldn't be able to live, but it doesn't work alone. Above it, there's another layer, more evolved, more emotional. A layer that feels, fears, loves, gets angry. It's the limbic system, or what we call the emotional brain. And here begins another story, the story of feelings, of attachment, of sad memories. And we'll dive into that story very gently in the next part of this long journey inside the human brain. Above the reptilian brain, where primitive darkness and automatic silence reside, a new layer emerged, a layer that doesn't move muscles or regulate temperature, but stirs something deeper, something invisible, yet real. It stirs emotions. This layer is called the limbic system, or the emotional brain. It developed millions of years ago in the first mammals, when mothers began to care for their young, protect them, feed them, and worry about them. It wasn't just behavior, it was something new, an inner feeling born without teaching, without language, something like tenderness, like anxiety, like love. And here begins a story that can't be told with words, but only felt. This emotional brain doesn't think the way we do, and it doesn't use logic. It doesn't know what to do, but it knows what it feels. When you're afraid or longing or feeling sadness or anger, that feeling starts right here. The most important part is called the amygdala, a very small structure, but a powerful one. Powerful enough to decide whether what you see is a threat or not. It's what makes your heart race when you hear a sudden noise. It's what makes you feel safe or in danger, even if you don't know why. Next to it is the hippocampus, the part responsible for memory. But it doesn't store information like a computer. Instead, it connects everything: places, sounds, smells, feelings. When you walk into a room and a scent reminds you of your childhood, that's the hippocampus at work. It called up that feeling without your permission. And without warning, emotions aren't words. They're not easy to explain. They appear suddenly from something so small, like an old tune, a faded photo, or a dim light in the middle of the night. And the emotional brain doesn't forget easily, because it holds onto the things that weren't said, the feelings that weren't understood, the moments that weren't expressed. That's why sometimes we feel sad without knowing why, or we miss something we can't name. This part of the brain doesn't like complexity, but it's deep like the ocean, and just as unpredictable. On some nights, it's calm. On others, it's stormy, but it never stops. Even while you sleep, it's working, dreaming, rearranging your emotions, testing out scenarios that haven't happened yet, preparing you for what might come. And here, dreams begin. But before we enter the world of dreams, we need to understand how an idea is born. Because an idea isn't just a piece of information. It's electrical signals traveling through a vast network, a complex system that somehow works with astonishing precision. In the next part of this journey, we'll rise higher, up to the outer layer of the brain, where thoughts begin and end, where language is born, where decisions are made, and knowledge is stored. There, in the cerebral cortex, we'll continue our journey, quietly, just as we always do. Above all the layers, above the reptilian brain that protects you, and above the emotional mind that makes you feel, there's a third layer, quieter, yet far more complex, a layer that doesn't move fast, doesn't shout, doesn't panic, but it thinks. This layer is called the cerebral cortex, the newest, largest, and most advanced part of the human brain. The cortex isn't one single piece. It's a vast map of specialties. Each part is in charge of something. There are areas for vision, areas for touch, for language, and for imagination. But what ties them all together is their slowness. An idea doesn't just pop into existence. It begins as a tiny point, a whisper of electricity passing from one neuron to the next. There are about 86 billion neurons in the brain, and each one is like a tree with roots, branches, and leaves, Electrical signals pass from neuron to neuron through these branches in what looks like a silent dance. That dance is what we call thinking. When you think, you don't hear a voice in your head, but deep inside, there are tiny electrical storms that no one can feel. When you ask yourself a simple question like, "Where did I put my keys?" millions of neurons start exchanging information, scanning memory, reviewing the scene, comparing, analyzing, and all of that happens in a fraction of a second, without noise, without words. But the cortex doesn't work alone. It depends on everything below it. Every thought carries a feeling, and every feeling ties back to a memory, and every memory is linked to a sensation. And this is how an idea becomes more than just information. It becomes a story. One of the most complex parts of the cortex is the prefrontal cortex, the center for decision-making, planning, and focus. It's the part that helps you wait, hesitate, rethink, and imagine consequences. It's what gives you self-control. But this part tires quickly. It doesn't like chaos. So when you're stressed, it pulls back, and the emotional brain takes over. That's when irrational reactions start to show up. And then there's language, another miracle. When you speak, a region called Broca's area starts assembling sentences letter by letter. And when you listen, Wernicke's area translates sound into meaning. All of this happens fast, but quietly, as if your brain is doing real-time translation without showing it. And vision? That's a team effort too. What we see doesn't enter the brain as a full picture. It gets analyzed, broken down, and rebuilt. Color in one place, movement in another, shape in yet another. Then suddenly, the full scene comes together in silence. All this complexity exists because the brain doesn't want to make mistakes. It knows a mistake can be costly. So it goes slow, careful, sometimes exhausting. But it never stops. Even in sleep, it keeps working, reorganizing thoughts, storing memories, summarizing the day, getting ready for what's next. But what about memories? Where are they stored? How do we decide what to forget and what to keep? Can an idea ever die? Or does it stay somewhere deep inside the brain's cells? In the next part, we'll go deeper into the hippocampus to understand how memory works and why we forget some things, yet remember others for no clear reason. Let's keep going, quietly, as always. Imagine there's a secret room inside you, hidden deep within your brain, one that stores every moment you've lived, every word you've heard, and every face you've ever seen. This room isn't some neat little library or tidy box of memories. It's a mysterious, constantly active world, and at the heart of it lies the hippocampus, a magical gateway that decides which memories get to stay and which ones vanish without a trace. Have you ever wondered why some memories stick with you forever, while others fade as if they never happened? Your brain chooses. But it doesn't ask for your opinion. It decides what's worth keeping and what should be forgotten, just like deleting old files from your computer to make room for new ones. It's not just about remembering, it's also about forgetting. That's the hidden secret behind focus and staying sane in a world overflowing with information. Now imagine this. While you sleep, your brain begins reorganizing those memories. It sorts, filters, and decides what stays, what goes. Ever wake up feeling like you forgot something important? Maybe your brain just hasn't finished sorting yet. Maybe, deep within your dreams, secrets are still being processed. But memories tied to fear or pain, those don't fade. They carve themselves deep into your emotional brain. They make you cautious, alert, even if you don't know why. These memories control you more than you realize. Quietly, invisibly. And when you recall a memory, you're not just opening a file. You're rebuilding an entire world. The image, the sound, the feeling. Like reliving the moment all over again. That's why memories differ from person to person. And that's why they change over time. Memory isn't just a biological function. It's an ongoing story, one your brain tells itself every day and sometimes forgets. It's what makes you, unique, complex, unforgettable. Are you ready? In the next part, we'll dive deeper into the world of emotion and uncover how it shapes your thoughts and behavior as we continue this fascinating journey through the human brain. Stay ready. The story's not over yet. Emotions aren't just silent signals inside you. They're the brain's language. A language that tells endless stories. Stories of your life. Stories of joy and sadness, of fear and courage. Without emotions, we're just bodies in motion. Without soul, without drive, without meaning. Imagine losing all feeling. What would life be like? Empty, silent, colorless. Deep within your brain, there's a strange, secret meeting between the emotional mind and the reptilian brain. A place where the first sparks of emotion are born. At the center of it is the amygdala, a tiny guardian constantly on alert, scanning sounds and shadows, deciding in an instant whether you're safe or in danger. It's the reason your heart races when you hear something unfamiliar in the dark, and the reason you relax when you hear a baby laugh. A small structure with enormous power over your life, but it doesn't stop there. The emotions you feel aren't just quick reactions. They're a complex blend of memory, environment, and even brain chemistry. Neurochemicals like dopamine and serotonin aren't just scientific terms. They're secret messengers, carrying coded instructions between your brain cells, shifting your mood and shaping your mental state from moment to moment. Think about happiness, that feeling when anything seems possible. In those moments, your brain floods with chemicals that lift you up, fill you with peace, and make you feel like you're floating on air. Fear, on the other hand, is an internal storm. It triggers chemicals that sharpen your senses, heighten your alertness, and prepare you to fight or flee. It puts your entire system on edge. And the most fascinating part, emotions don't fade easily. They leave fingerprints deep within your mind. A single experience, a harsh word, a moment of loss can reshape how you think forever. It makes your brain reprocess future events through the lens of past pain. That's the dark secret of emotion. Its power to quietly shape everything you become. This is where the daily battle between logic and emotion begins. Some moments, reason takes the lead, calm, wise, rational. Other times, emotions take over, rushing in like a storm, pushing you to act without thinking, to abandon logic for impulse. And here's the mind-blowing part. Your brain doesn't always know the difference between reality and imagination. A painful memory, or even just a scary thought, can trigger a physical reaction, as if it were happening right in front of you. That's the invisible power of emotion. It rules your life from the shadows. And in all of this, sleep emerges as a refuge, a healer. When you drift off, your brain begins a quiet, magical process you never see. It reorganizes those tangled emotions, heals emotional wounds in silence, and slowly restores your inner balance. You can wake up, ready to face another day. But what really happens in that mysterious world of sleep? How does your brain recharge itself just to stay alive? What do your eyes see when they close and dive into a world beyond reality? In the next part, we'll unlock the secrets of sleep. We'll go deep into the night, into the hidden laboratory inside your head that works tirelessly so you can be reborn with every sunrise. Are you ready for that journey? Do you want to know how your mind heals, resets, and reshapes your feelings and thoughts? Stay with me. The mystery still awaits. When you close your eyes and drift towards sleep, don't think of it as simply shutting down or going still. It's far more than that. It's a journey deep and mysterious, a secret adventure your brain takes every night. This journey isn't ordinary. It's filled with hidden processes and ancient codes that scientists have been trying to decode for decades. In those first moments, your brain begins to slow down, as if preparing to dive into a calm ocean. Brain waves become slower, and you enter the stages of sleep, each one unique, each with a distinct role in your health and your life. First comes light sleep, a transition zone between wakefulness and the deep. You're still somewhat alert, hovering between two worlds. Then comes deep sleep, when brain activity reaches its lowest point and your body begins the invisible work of healing. During this deep sleep, your brain doesn't rest, it gets to work. It flushes out toxins and chemical waste that built up over a long day of thinking, working, and feeling. It's like an intense internal cleaning. It repairs connections between neurons and rebuilds the bridges in your complex neural network. This critical process keeps your brain healthy, helping it prepare for a brand new day. Without it, you can't think clearly, remember things well, or feel balanced. But sleep isn't just about recharging. There's something even more incredible, a stage called REM sleep, rapid eye movement, where your brain becomes as active as it is when you're awake, but in an entirely different world. This is where dreams begin. Strange, vivid journeys where reality blends with imagination, past moments mix with current emotions, and buried feelings come to life. During REM, your brain is hard at work, processing emotions, strengthening memories, and organizing them so that you wake up mentally stronger. It's like your brain is retelling your story, preserving its details, sharpening its meaning, so you can face tomorrow with clarity and courage. It's a private theater inside your mind, where you're both the director and the star. Despite all this intense activity, you have no control over what happens. Sleep is a hidden world ruled by electrical waves, precise chemicals, and surreal dreams. Your brain walks a tightrope, balancing your safety, recharging your energy, and renewing your cells, all silently, in total darkness, while you wander through your inner world. And the amazing part? Sleep doesn't just heal your mind, it watches over your whole body. Your brain tracks your heartbeat, your breathing, your temperature. It sends quiet commands to maintain balance and harmony, so you wake up feeling restored. But what happens when that balance is broken? What if you don't get the sleep you need? You begin to sink into mental fog. Your thinking falters, your memory slips, your emotions spin out of control. Sleep isn't a luxury, it's essential. It's the foundation of your brain's health and your body's well-being. So each night, as you dive into this remarkable world, remember, your brain never really sleeps. It's working in silence, organizing, healing, and preparing you for life. And as we get closer to the heart of dreams, we'll soon step into their world, uncovering what they mean, how they're created, and what they reveal about the deepest parts of your mind. In the next part, we'll unlock the dream world, where thoughts and feelings become vivid scenes, where reality blurs into imagination, and where the secret to understanding ourselves might be waiting. When you close your eyes and begin to drift slowly into sleep, your brain sets off on a strange and wondrous journey, one that's completely different from the waking world. During REM sleep, rapid eye movement, the mind's inner screen lights up with vivid images, sounds, emotions, and mysterious symbols. We call them dreams. And though they often feel confusing, dreams are our window into the depths of the subconscious, a key to unlocking the secrets of our minds. But have you ever wondered, why do we dream? What message is your brain trying to send you? Scientists are still trying to fully decode this mystery, but they agree on one thing: dreams aren't just random static. They're intelligent, complex processes. While you dream, your brain is reorganizing your daily memories, working through emotional conflicts, and testing thoughts you may have avoided while awake. Imagine your mind as a film director, editing together moments from your past, pieces of the present, and even fragments of imagined futures, crafting a story that's out of your control but rich with hidden meaning. Sometimes it's light and playful. Other times, it turns dark and haunting, like a nightmare you can't escape. Dreams reveal your deepest fears and your most private desires, the ones you don't even admit to yourself. During this strange journey, certain parts of the brain become more active. The visual cortex fires up, creating incredible scenes. The amygdala, the emotional core, pulses with feeling, making every emotion feel more intense than real life. Meanwhile, the logical parts of your brain, like the prefrontal cortex, go quiet. That's why dreams seem weird, disconnected, or completely surreal. But here's another secret. Dreams aren't just an escape. They're a mental rehearsal. In your dreams, your brain plays out different roles, simulates possible solutions, and tests new responses to life's challenges. It's a kind of mental training, without you even knowing it. Have you ever woken up after a disturbing dream and felt its weight all day? Or after a beautiful dream, wished you didn't have to wake up? Dreams stay with us. They shape our mood, influence our decisions, and leave emotional imprints long after we open our eyes. Dreams are living proof that your brain never stops working, even in your deepest sleep. They are a testament to the brilliance of the human brain, an organ that never rests, constantly creating, adapting, and reinventing itself, even in the darkest hours of the night. And now, as we stand on the edge of even deeper discovery, it's time to explore the next chapter. How this astonishing brain connects with your body, how it controls every move, every feeling, and every thought, so we can finally understand how we become who we truly are. Stay with me. The journey is far from over. Imagine, just for a moment, that you're standing at the control deck of a vast command center, overseeing millions of wires. monitoring thousands of signals, managing a complex web of systems that never rest. That's your brain, the invisible commander behind every movement, every heartbeat, every emotion, from your very first breath to your final moment. The brain isn't just a mass of cells. It's the most incredible biological miracle on Earth. Inside it, thousands of electrical and chemical signals race every second, delivering commands and instructions through neurons and muscles at lightning speed. It's like a high-powered control unit keeping you alive and guiding your every move. Think about it. When you decide to raise your hand, you don't need a strategy or a long process. A signal shoots out from deep inside your brain, travels through a complex network of nerves, and reaches your hand muscles, causing movement with precision and incredible speed. That simple motion is actually the result of an intricate chain of events happening beneath your awareness. But the brain does much more than control voluntary movement. It also runs thousands of involuntary processes, quietly, in the background. How does your heart keep beating? How do your lungs keep breathing? How does digestion work so smoothly? All of it is governed by the autonomic nervous system, an unseen force, silent and steady, keeping you alive with unmatched care. And then come the moments of danger. When fear strikes, your brain launches a wave of adrenaline through your body. That chemical surge makes your heart race like war drums, your muscles tighten, your breathing quicken. It's full body readiness, fight or flight. This ancient response, shaped by millions of years of evolution, is what allowed humans to survive even the harshest of threats. Even something as simple as breathing, which we often take for granted, is under constant brain surveillance. Your brain adjusts your breath to match your body's needs, speeding it up when you move, slowing it when you rest, like a rhythm your brain quietly conducts. But the brain isn't just giving orders. It's also constantly receiving information from the outside world. Through your five senses, sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell, a river of data flows into specialized brain regions. There, the signals are interpreted and transformed into pictures, sounds, and feelings, shaping your perception of reality and guiding how you respond. What's even more astonishing is that the brain isn't some detached machine. It's alive with your body. When you feel pain, messages travel to your brain, which decides how and when to alert you. Pain isn't just a sensation, it's a message, and the brain gives it meaning. This close connection, this beautiful partnership between brain and body creates a being both fragile and extraordinary. Despite our vulnerabilities, we adapt, survive, and thrive because of this tireless leader that never sleeps. Have you ever considered that every thought in your brain, no matter how small, can become a movement, a choice, or even a physical feeling? That an emotional experience can shift your brain chemistry and in turn change how your entire body functions. Even more fascinating, your brain is not fixed. It's alive, flexible, constantly changing. Through experience, learning, and even mindful practices like meditation or exercise, we can actually improve how this incredible leader performs. We can strengthen memory, boost clarity, and expand creativity. In the next part, we'll dive into that remarkable journey, how the brain adapts and evolves, how it can open doors to new forms of intelligence and creativity, and how we can learn to become more aware of the immense power held within this mysterious organ. Get ready to dive even deeper into your own mind, because every new discovery brings us closer to understanding the greatest mystery in the universe, you. Somewhere deep behind your forehead lies the command center, a gray lump of flesh, yet the most mysterious element in the known universe. The brain. It never sleeps. It never rests. It never stops thinking. And it never stops changing. For many years, scientists believed that once the brain matured, it stopped growing, stopped evolving, lost its ability to renew. But they were wrong. The brain doesn't thrive in stillness. It is reborn each day, quietly, silently, without our awareness. It builds, it breaks down, it reshapes itself. With every thought, every emotion, every experience, transformation is happening. Scientists call this ability neuroplasticity. But behind this cold clinical term lies something profound, something revolutionary. It means our past doesn't define us. Our present can reshape our future. Imagine this. Every time you think in a new way, learn a new skill, or face an old fear, you're physically altering your brain. You're carving fresh lines into your mental blueprint, writing new pages into your mind's journal, one word at a time. It's as if your brain, this magnificent organ, is just waiting for you to push it, to spark it, to feed it, so it can evolve. But this change doesn't happen on its own. The brain is like fertile soil. It will only bloom if you plant seeds and nourish it consistently. Ignore it, and it will wilt slowly. Time is the enemy of those who stand still, but the ally of those who choose to grow. Deep within your mind are locked corridors, dormant powers, untapped abilities. Intelligence isn't fixed. Focus isn't a gift. Memory isn't luck. All of these can be trained, strengthened, sharpened. But who dares to see the brain as a muscle needing daily exercise, rather than a bucket waiting to be filled and forgotten? The beauty of it all? Change has no age limit. Growth doesn't retire. Hope never dies as long as the mind is alive. Even in moments of collapse, when the mind is clouded by sadness, illness, or trauma, there's still a flicker of light. There are neurons waiting to be reactivated. There are circuits hoping to reconnect. There's a mental life that refuses to fade quietly. Yes, the brain can be improved, not through magic or machines, but through willpower, through awareness, by believing that within each of us is a scientist capable of rewiring their own mind. So the real question is, are we ready to look in the mirror, not to see who we are, but who we could become? In the next part, we'll go beyond flesh and blood. We'll step into a bold new dream, the quest to build a brain that thinks like ours, and maybe one day surpasses it. Our journey takes us next to the frontier of artificial intelligence, where machines strive to imitate the most brilliant biological creation in the universe, the human brain. Somewhere behind the forehead, deep within the skull, lies the command center. Not made of steel or electronic circuits, but of living flesh, of millions of interconnected cells, of electricity born from nothing. It is the human brain, the pinnacle of evolution, and the greatest mystery life has ever known. It's not just a gray mass, it's an entire world, a world where emotions are born, thoughts are woven, and dreams take shape. The brain doesn't just work, it feels, it longs, it hurts, and in every moment it changes, it adapts. It tells the story of humanity in its own unique way. But at the heart of this digital age, a new rival has emerged, a being without a heart, without fear, without longing, a being that knows no tears, no doubt, no insomnia, a being called artificial intelligence. Systems built on the model of a neural cell, designed to imitate, to learn, to decide. AI doesn't sleep, doesn't forget, doesn't hesitate. It analyzes billions of data points in seconds. It sees patterns where we only see chaos. It learns at speeds beyond our comprehension. And with that, it's closing in. But closing in on what? On the human mind, or just a distorted reflection of it? Despite all the advancements machines have made, they remain prisoners of their programming. They don't create from pain. They're not inspired by moments of weakness. They don't know the thrill of a dream. In contrast, the human brain is full of contradictions. It ignites suddenly with a memory, trembles before a painting, collapses from a single word. It holds a spark that defies explanation, something no machine can replicate. The brain doesn't just function, it lives. Still, we can't ignore the present. Today, machines share many of our tasks. They write, draw, translate, and learn. They even diagnose diseases, write stories, and complete melodies. And so, the toughest question arises. Will machines remain tools in human hands? Or will we one day wake up to find them moving forward without us? In the midst of this silent battle, the human brain stands before many mirrors. One reflecting its brilliance, another revealing its limits, and a third warning that the machine is catching up. Yet there's still one thing no machine has reached: consciousness, that hidden sense that we exist, that we think, we dream, we love, and we fear. Can that be replicated? Can nostalgia be programmed? Can the feeling of loneliness or the thrill of victory be designed? Or will those things always belong solely to the human brain, no matter how advanced machines become? Maybe the day will come when machines work alongside the mind, not to replace it, but to complete it. A day when AI is an extra hand, not an alternative brain. But until then, the struggle remains, silent but deep. And every night, as darkness falls and the brain drifts into sleep, the machine still cannot dream. And dreams remain the realm of a human whose heart is still beating with life. And here we are, at the end of our journey through the human brain, that remarkable organ that never stops working, not even when we sleep. The brain, with all its layers, its countless nerves and hidden secrets, is what makes us who we are. It is the center of consciousness, emotions, thoughts, and memory. When you close your eyes and drift into sleep, the brain begins, slowly, to dim the lights. Not a full shutdown, but a gradual slowing. A silence that quietly spreads across the neural networks. The electrical waves begin to soften, and the activity calms. In this stillness, the brain reorganizes its thoughts, sorts through memories, and prepares itself for a new day. Sleep isn't just rest for the body. It's a vital cycle for the brain, a crucial phase that restores balance, protects mental health, and gets you ready to wake up refreshed and alert. The brain doesn't know how to stop. It's always in motion, even in the quietest hours of the night. And this silence is the deepest, the wisest. So now, as you fall asleep, know that your brain is accompanying you on a slow, peaceful, and mysterious journey. A journey that continues endlessly. Thank you for staying with me through this long journey inside the human brain. I hope this calm voice and these slow words helped you relax and brought you a little closer to restful sleep. Good night, and I'll see you on a new journey in another world, inside another mind.